Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon, and then I post these videos up to social media. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, APA, or any other therapist for that matter. I'd like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They're an online therapy company. They are international. So if you need to get to a therapist, go to BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. Fill out a few questions and we'll place you with a master's level or PhD level therapist that can go international or one in your state. So there you go. Thank you, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. Okay. All righty. So I will be doing meet and greets again. Yay. I'm glad to be on the road again. Makes me very happy. All right. So April 13th, I will be in Houston. April 20th, I will be in Pensacola, Florida. May 4th, I will be in Charleston, South Carolina. June 22nd, Richmond, Virginia. July 20th, Washington, D.C. And August 10th will be Philadelphia. So if you are interested in getting in on those meet and greets and we can sit and chat for 2 hours, go to chrisgodinez.com. Go to, I think it's appearances. Is it appearances? Appearances or events? Damn, I better go check. Anyway, go to chrisgodinez.com. They're available on there. And I will let you guys know about a week or two before where it is going to be at, because I don't want to book a place if I don't need it. Like if, crickets, nobody shows up, I'm not going to book it. So there we go. Hi guys. Okay. So there's that. Okay. In current events, I do have some good local news. So the mayor of Gilbert, Bridget Peterson, announced suddenly that she was not going to seek re-election. I need to spend more time with my family. What's happened is that there has now been about 7 arrests in the Gilbert Goon case, and it's been ridiculously mishandled by the city and by the chief of police and everybody else involved in it. Other jurisdictions are making the arrests, which I think is interesting. And so, yeah, there's several lawsuits against her personally, and there is a looking into a recall. So, karma is a beautiful thing. So she sent me a really nasty email when they were trying to turn our park, which is a green space, which is very rare here in the desert, into a go-kart amusement park. And I was saying, hey, you work for us, not for the corporations. And she sent me a nasty gram back. Enjoy your amusement park. It's a done deal. And I just want to say to her, enjoy your retirement. May you have the life you deserve. So, boom. Love it. Love that she's getting what she deserves. Love that there's lawsuits against her. Love that she's not running. And there's been arrests and there's been movement in the case. So that makes me feel safer, number one. And it lets me know that, yeah, we don't always get to see karma, but boy, howdy, when you do, it is a beautiful thing. I feel like that meme with Kermit, drinking the tea going, well, it's none of my business, but, so anyway, there that is. I am seeing still in the news more cases, as always, of domestic violence ending up with the families being murdered, etc. So again, I just want to emphasize that bullying, intimidation, these are all manipulations, and we're going to talk about that. And especially what the mayor tried to do with me, that was an intimidation, and I didn't fall for it. So there we go. But those are things that we can do something about. So even when faced with a city government, right, that looked like, oh, I'm going to win, they're going to win because of intimidation, nastiness, etc. They didn't win. They didn't. And there's a couple of quotes I want to say to you, because when we come out of abusive relationships, we often feel disempowered, disenfranchised, unable to affect change in the world. And the truth of the matter is we can. Absolutely. If one person speaks up and says, this is wrong publicly, look what happens. See where I'm going with that? And if enough people start speaking up, the media starts paying attention to it. And I think that's what really helped, is that enough of us were like, whoa, this is wrong. This is not right. This is bad. This shouldn't be happening. Why are they sitting on this evidence? How come it took them 2 months to go through these tapes when we had everybody identified in 2 hours on Facebook? So Even one person can make a difference. So don't ever underestimate the power of speaking up. Ooh, I just got goosebumps when I said that. You have power, and it gives courage to other people to speak up. It's just like when I say, tell your story. Tell your story. Be vocal. Let people know what's happening. Cockroaches don't like the light. And boy, howdy, when the light gets shine on them, they retire. So, you know, it's like, it's really important. Your voice has power. My voice has power. Your voice has power. Speak up. If you see something that is wrong, speak up, because that will encourage other people who may be feeling small or intimidated or fearful or whatever to also speak up. So there's a couple of quotes I wanted to tell you about that really, really resonated with me. And they're both from Lord of the Rings. One is from the movie version. One is from the actual book. So this is the quote that inspired the movie version. I want to do this one first. Okay. Yet it is such oft the course of deeds that move the wheels of the world. Small hands do them because they must, while the eyes of the great are elsewhere. Okay, so basically what Elrond is saying to Frodo is that, yes, you're a hobbit. Yes, you're the smallest of all of these 9 companions, etc. But you're doing this because you must. Because if you don't, what's going to happen to the Shire? The Shire is going to get destroyed, basically. And then the movie quote that I loved was Galadriel at her mirror telling Frodo, and this is based on that quote because obviously Samuel Jackson, no, different Jackson, Peter Jackson had to, change things around a little bit. But I love this quote. So Galadriel is talking to Frodo, who's fearful. And she says, even the smallest person can change the course of the future. So never doubt your power. Never doubt your truth. Never doubt your voice. And that's what I got to say to you, because how many times have I defeated this council? Let's see. First time they tried to put an amusement park in there, they got shot down. Second time they tried to put an amusement park in there. Ooh, ethics violations. Isn't that interesting? Nepotism. Third time she's trying to run again, and then she realizes, oh no, there's lawsuits, there's ethics violations, yeah. So never doubt your power. Never. And I'm not saying I did it on my own. It's just that when you put the eyes of the public on something that is morally wrong, boy, howdy, stuff starts moving. And especially if you can get the media involved. And the media needs to be involved in domestic violence. It really does. Because this is, it's starting to, but it needs to be more socially unacceptable. Unfreaking acceptable. So that's what we got to work on. Speak up. You have power. Speak up. Tell your story. Write your book. Do your podcast. Do this stuff. There is nothing unique about me. Nothing. Honest to God, nothing unique about me. I am just willing to tell my story and not be afraid. I think that's the big thing. So now let's dive into how they try to shut us up. So manipulation is really pissing me off. So, all right, here's what they do. So fear is one of their big ones. Okay. Intimidation. So abusers will use fear. They'll try to frighten us into staying silent. Well, if you say anything, I will fill in the blank. And they'll do anything from make you lose your job, kill your pet, beat you, whatever. Or they're emotionally intimidating. If you don't do what I want, I will withdraw my love, right? Cold shoulder. That whole thing. And that is painful to us. They've shown time and time again, emotional manipulation when it's the cold shoulder activates the same pain centers in the brain as physical pain. There's no difference. The brain cannot tell the difference. That's why the whole ignoring us is so painful. And they do it on purpose. It's a way to make us get back into line. Okay. So they do fear. Okay. Sometimes it's physical intimidation. Sometimes they beat us. Sometimes they, shove us up against walls. I've had people tell me, oh, it wasn't that bad. It was only emotional. Oh my God, people, I love you, but here's the deal. Emotional abuse is just as bad as physical abuse. It is. You can't see the bruises, but they're there. Trust me on that one. Stuff, I almost said something else. The stuff that they have said to us that was lies, the nastiness, the projection, the horrible things that they said, that stuff just runs in our heads like nobody's business. How was I describing it to one of my clients the other day? It's like when you never have eaten oysters before and you try to chew them. Don't do that. Just personal experience. Don't do it because they just get bigger and slimier and nastier and it's harder to swallow. Oh my God. So it's the same thing. It's like that stuff just gets bigger and nastier and slimier, and you shouldn't have to swallow it because it's not even yours. So it's really, this is what they do. They do fear tactics, fear, fear, fear. It's psychological warfare, is what it is. So, and why? So, a lot of people ask me, well, why do they do it? Well, you are dealing with somebody who is on the level of maybe a 2-year-old, probably younger, on a good day, if the wind is blowing in the right direction on a Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? They are not very emotionally there. Okay. And there's no there. This is all ego. And the ego wants what the ego wants when the ego wants it. And when does it want it? Yesterday. So there's no patience, there's no kindness, there's no empathy, there's no loving, there's no nothing. They do not think the way we do. They are, excuse me, like predators. They're like a shark. They're like, how can I get what I want? How can I get what I want? How can I get what I want? Dunna, 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 dunna. And then they attack. So they are, everything is about me, I, more my genitals. Seriously, that's all they care about. It's how they can get their needs met, and they will do it through any means necessary. So just like a little kid, when you see a little kid at the grocery store, I want it, I want it, I want it, and then they'll cry, angry, and then and they go through the range of emotions. Now they're not necessarily doing it consciously because they're two, but an abuser is. An abuser has seen how their manipulations gets them what they want. So I've often often had this discussion with a couple of my friends that are in this field. And one of my friends, Ed Lindler, who was my supervisor when I was over at the homeless shelter, he was so funny. He's like, well, therapists do manipulate, but we manipulate for good instead of evil. And I just laughed at that because it kind of is true. It's kind of like, I don't consider it manipulation, but I give the client the opportunity to take a turn, and kind of show them why, kind of thing. Whereas abusers, man, they manipulate to serve their own ego, to hurt other people. They enjoy it. They're sadists. And there's always an agenda. There's always an agenda, and it's always about them. Always, 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 always about them. So I think I would disagree with Ed a little bit. He's a little bit right. We do kind of manipulate for good, I suppose, but but it's not about us. It's about helping the client get to where they need to go. Whereas the abuser, it's all about them. There is no greater good as far as the abuser is concerned. As far as the abuser is concerned, the world is about them, and that's it. So, all right, fear. They use fear. They use threats. They use physical intimidation. They use the look. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the look from an abuser, but it's kind of like, hold on a second. Sorry. We've had rain, and now all of the pollen is going, and I'm like, oh, not again this time of year. Oh, my Lord. Anyway. Okay. So the look from an abuser is, say the target of abuse says or does something they don't like publicly, and the abuser doesn't want to be embarrassed publicly, but it's coming when you get home. So there's that look like, I'm going to get you, that vicious, mean, soulless kind of, I'm going to get you, that kind of thing. So they do that. And of course, the target of abuse, having been abused multiple times by this person, recognizes that look and immediately shuts down. That's what they want. Their whole goal is to get their target of abuse to shut the hell up. That's what they want. They want somebody who is not going to say a word and just sit there and take it. That's really what they want. So, okay, the next form of manipulation. So, okay, so that's intimidation. That's kind of like, I will harm you, I will hurt you, I will physically do something to you, I will spiritually do something to you, that kind of thing. So, another manipulation, polar opposite, love bombing. Love bombing is a manipulation. So, I love you, 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 you're fabulous, you're this, you're that. And that makes you feel all gooey inside. And then they rip the carpet out from underneath you and start telling you how horrible you are. So it's that intermittent positive rewards. You guys need to remember this stuff because they will do this over and over and over again. Okay. So the love bombing usually starts in the beginning of the relationship, but it also happens when you have left them and then you decide to go back. And in that first little bit, they'll do the love bombing just to ensure that they've got you. It's a gotcha. So they do the love bombing, and then as soon as they're sure that they have you, the abuse starts, and it's worse than it was before. That's manipulation. So intermittent positive rewards is I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you, I love, 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 hate, 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 love, hate, love, hate. And that is conditioning, guys. That is classic conditioning. That is what dog trainers do with dogs. So not I love you, I hate you, but I'm going to get you to sit and I'm going to give you a treat. Okay. I'm going to get you to sit and then I'll give you a treat maybe every other time. Okay. I'm going to get you to sit and I'm going to give you a treat maybe every third time or every sixth time. And eventually I'm going to get you to sit without even giving a treat. That's what they're doing to us. It is brainwashing. It is absolutely 110, no questions asked. So that is also why when we leave one of these relationships, whether it's a family relationship or whether it's a romantic relationship or a corporation or whatever, we question so hard ourselves. We second guess, we doubt, and we keep replaying stuff in our heads because they've been brainwashing us with the intermittent positive rewards. 110%. You're not wrong. So, okay, so there is the love bombing. That is another form of manipulation. The other form of manipulation besides fear and intimidation is obligation. Okay, obligation is based in shame. This is why it's hugely important to work on your self esteem. I mean, for both also the intimidation and the fear, but the obligation, specifically the obligation and guilt, these two are kind of together, little different because the guilt can be used in other ways. I'm going to talk about that. Obligation, you owe me. That's what that is. You owe me. Look, this is, oh God, this is when you get the covert narcissistic parent. I've done all this for you. I was in labor for 36 hours. I did all of this. You tore me when you came out. I've actually had people tell me that their parents have said that to them. Like the kid had anything to do with it. Lady, you're the one that got pregnant. Sorry, So they're trying to make you feel obligated. Okay. They're like, putting it on, and I'm not saying that it's her fault, but it's kind of like, how dare you? How dare you blame this kid for something that happened during birth, not their fault? Hello. So anyway, they will do that. So it's an obligation. You owe me. I'm your mother. I'm your father. I've done X, Y, and Z for you, even though they really haven't. Or maybe they've done physical stuff, material stuff, but they haven't been there emotionally. But in their head, it's like, oh, I'm the greatest parent ever, and you owe me. No, you don't. You don't. So that's obligation. Obligation is when somebody tries to tell you that you owe them. Now, here's the flip side of that. So that's obligation with an iron fist. Okay. That's the classic covert narcissist parent, oh, I've done all of this. You never write, you never call. How dare you? I'm going to go to the garden and eat big slimy hairy worms. Nobody cares if I live, that whole thing. Right. So, which, the flip side of that is the iron fist in a velvet glove. So the iron fist in a velvet glove is also obligation, but it's more along the lines of, they're hiding it really well. And I'm doing this because I love you. Or I did this because I love you. Or you owe me because I love you. Right. So it's not quite so poor me. It's more, I'm doing all these things for you. It's a lot of codependence kind of thing, but there's an agenda. It's like, I love you so much and now you owe me, kind of thing. I love you so much and now you can never leave. Those are the parents that infantilize their kids and don't ever want their children to grow up and never want them to leave. And, oh, but I'm protecting you. And, oh, but I'm doing this for you. And it's like, oh, no. So be careful of those manipulations. It's a honey trap, is what it is. So for example, they will tell the kid, or the spouse will do this. Oh no, you don't have to work. I'll pay for everything. You don't have to work. You don't have to, you just stay home and take care of the kids, or you just do, whatever, right? But then what will happen is when the target of abuse goes to leave, or the kid grows up and is like, oh my God, I've got to get out of here because I need my own life. Thanks for playing. They will start with the whole, oh, but I've loved you so much. And look at all I've sacrificed for you. And look at what I've done. It's a honey trap. It's a honey trap. So that's the iron fist with the velvet glove. You don't see it coming because you think it's a velvet glove. No, it's an iron fist. So they're using that obligation. You owe me. You owe me. So anyone who says they owe you can go pound sand, and you need to tell them that. It's like, no, I don't owe anybody anything. Thanks for playing. I owe respect. If you want my thanks, there we go. Thank you. But it's not a gift if it's not given freely. Let me say that again. It is not a gift if it has strings attached. If it has strings attached, it's a manipulation. And that's what they will do. They will give things, cars, rent, whatever, but there's a string attached. There's some sort of, you owe me. This needs to be paid back. This is, that kind of thing. But that's not a gift. That's a manipulation. All right. Guilt. Let's talk about guilt. So, shame. So obligation and guilt are based in shame, okay? Because they're playing on our sense of fair play. Oh, Lord. So targets tend to have a really good sense of fair play. It's like, well, this is fair and this is not fair. And they will play on that. And they'll be like, oh, well, you're not being fair to me. And they'll start using terminology, psychological and otherwise, against us to get to that internal shame. The internal shame is what drives us to play into their game, because we're trying to rid ourselves of that internal shame. Listen to me now, believe me later. Y'all got nothing to be ashamed of. Ain't none of you got anything to be ashamed of. Y'all don't. So work on your self-esteem. That is your best defense against the intimidation, the fear, the obligation, and the guilt, and the love bombing, quite frankly. Because, when somebody is just too, what's the word I'm looking for? Too smarmy, I guess, or they're overdoing it. I can always tell when they're overdoing it. It's like, okay, that's nice. Thank you. Go away. So your self-esteem is going to be your first line of defense against manipulation. So the shame. So kids do not have shame when we pop out of the womb. We just don't. Some idiot adult has to teach us to be shameful. Literally full of shame. So what abusers do is they project their shame, if they have any, or how they feel we should feel, shoulda, coulda, woulda, that's their problem. How we should feel shamed for, name it. I mean, I've seen abusers shame their kids for going shirtless if they're like, babies. It's like, why? They're babies. Let them run around in their diapers. It doesn't matter. It's hot, but they're doing a body shaming. So they love to body shame. They love to sex shame. Oh, you're a boy, you're a girl, you should be ashamed. Whoa, what the, or you're trans and you should be ashamed, or you're gay or you should be ashamed. So they love to pick on things and shame people for it. You ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. You don't. It doesn't matter. But boy, howdy, they've got to find something to shame you for. And so they do. They'll shame kids for not playing with the appropriate toys, right? Well, no, you're a girl, you can't play with trucks, you need to be playing with dolls. Or vice versa, you're a boy, you can't be playing with dolls, you need to be playing with trucks. Okay, that's kind of so they shame them. They shame. Kids should be seen and not heard. How many times did we all hear that growing up? That was a very famous Victorian thing, and it got passed down. It did. So they shame us for having a voice. Oh, they shame us for seeing the pink elephant taking a doo-doo in the corner of the living room. If we see stuff, oh, we're not supposed to see it. How dare you? And so they'll shame us for calling it out. They'll shame us for seeing the dysfunction. And so we very quickly learn to clam up, not see it, put the blinders on. Oh, I don't see it. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it, even though it's like right there. So that's what they do. That's the fear, the obligation, and the guilt. So the fear is not based in shame. The fear is based in fear. But the obligation and the guilt, boy, howdy, they're using that shame that they've shoved into our space to make us feel shameful for not doing what they want, for not getting them their goals. So that's the fear, the obligation, and the guilt. Whew. So how do you combat all of that? Or how do you know that somebody's trying to manipulate you? Trust your gut. Trust your gut. If this feels off, then it's off. If it feels like something, if it's familiar and you're like, ooh, this is something that my dad would do, or this is something that my mom would do, or this is something that my ex would do, then you're being manipulated. They're trying to manipulate you. If it feels familiar and not in a good way, you're going to have to learn to trust your gut. So how does all this happen? Self-esteem, guys. I am not kidding you. When I've been singing this for years now. When I say that self-esteem is basically going to put everything else into place, I'm not kidding you. And it's funny to me how many people resist working on the self-esteem workbook because they realize their life is going to change and it scares them, but it's going to change for the better. It is. So the self-esteem workbook, Glenn Schiraldi, get it, work it, start in the beginning, go all the way through. When you're done, go back and go all the way through. And when you're done, go back and go all the way through, at least 3 times, do it. So that is going to be your best defense because your self-esteem, your gut instinct is going to kick in and go, ooh, this does not feel good. This does not feel right. What is this? Ooh, this is manipulation. They're trying to get me to do what they want. Don't think so. Thanks for playing. Bye-bye. So really, that's what you're going to want to do. And you're going to want to call it out to yourself at the very least. Now, I was going through a lot of articles trying to find a good one on how to deal with manipulators. And oh my God, I'm telling you, I wish to God that they would require classes in how to deal with abuse. I really do, because a lot of them were like, oh, well, you just call it out to the person. Are you smoking the ganja? What the? No, you don't. You know what's going to happen if you call that out to people? Well, I see what you're doing, and this is what you're doing. They're going to amp it up. You call it out to yourself. You call it out to yourself. You don't need to call it out to the abuser unless it's somebody you don't freaking care about, like the mayor of Gilbert, or, not saying she's an abuser. I'm just saying. So, if it's somebody you don't care about, yeah, you can call it out. But if it's somebody you're having to live with or you have to work with, are you smoking something? No, you don't call it out to them. It's just it's going to make it go worse. They're not going to get better, guys. You can't fix them. These people you cannot fix. Okay. Now, again, however, caveat, let me give this to you again. If you do speak up to other coworkers, if it's a boss situation and you guys get together, then you have got some leverage. Okay. If it's just one lone voice out there and nobody else is backing you, no, you don't have leverage. But if you can get people, if you can rally them, then you've got some leverage. Then you can either get this person out or you guys walk out en masse. One of the two. And I've had a couple of cases where clients have had to do that because the boss was such a narcissistic POS that there was no other solution. So, and is that scary? You betcha, especially in today's economy with today's jobs. So, but what's worse, staying with a job where you're waking up at 2:00 in the morning, throwing up because you don't want to be there because it's so abusive, or taking your chance and leaving and finding something better. So there it is. And this is the thing. Narcissists thrive in secrecy. This is why they use intimidation. This is why they use fear. This is why they use obligation. This is why they use guilt. They want you to be so ashamed and so fearful that you don't dare oppose them. oppose them, but just not in the way some of these articles are saying, because, oh my God, some of the articles were like, oh, you need to go have a talk with them. No, 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 no. Because abusers, when they're called out on their stuff, what do? They punish, they ramp it up, they get worse, they get flying monkeys, the whole thing. So really calling it out to yourself is what's going to be the most important thing to do, is being able to go, this is a manipulation. This is gaslighting. Okay, let's talk about gaslighting. Gaslighting is when they say that they didn't do or say what they did do or say. Okay, they're trying to tell you it never happened. Okay, I call people out on that all the time, city officials included. So, it's like, okay, this happened. I know this happened. I don't need their agreement or their validation that this happened. They're telling me it didn't, but I know it happened. So that's why I'm saying it doesn't do any good to talk to the abuser and go, hey, that's gaslighting. Hey, that really did happen. Because it's going to be a case of, no, it didn't. Yes, it did. No, it didn't. Yes, it did. No, it didn't. Didn't. That's their children. They're children. So knowing it in your head is what's important. Calling out what the manipulation is important. So gaslighting is when they rewrite history and they try to convince you that the things that happened didn't happen, or things that they said that they said, they'll say, oh, I never said that. And they'll demand that you agree with them. And they won't let you leave the room until you do. I've seen some of them, in some cases, will stop people from leaving the room until they agree with them. So in that case, it's okay, physical safety first, agree, get the hell out, and never go back. It's like, you got to watch out for yourself. So the fear, the obligation, the guilt, the shame, that's what they're playing on. Those are all shame is a manipulation in and of itself. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Absolutely nothing. And so many clients and so many people who have survived abuse tell me, it's like, oh, I feel such shame for having fallen in love with this person. Why? They were the best actors on the face of the planet. Anyone would have fallen in love with them. Seriously. They put on a mask that, if you don't know what you're looking for, looks and sounds like a normal person. They're not, but you don't know that until you're deep into it. You've got nothing to be ashamed of, sweethearts. None of you have got anything to be ashamed of. You're not going to notice who and what they are until they're starting the devalue and the discard, until the love bombing is over and they're starting the roller coaster. You're not going to start realizing that there's something really, really, really off, which is why I'm trying to educate the living crap out of everyone so they don't get involved with these jackasses in the first place. So anyway, because you're not. It's like, how many of us had training in abuse? Crickets, hello, none of us. How many of us had any sort of idea that abuse starts back in middle school or younger? Bullies, hello. Yeah, no, they don't talk about it. It needs to be talked about. So manipulation, another form of manipulation is isolation. Think about it. If they're telling you that all your family and friends are terrible and you should have nothing to do with them, and they move you thousands of miles away and you know no one and you have no friends, that's a manipulation. That's a huge red flag. It always scares me when I hear a client saying, oh, I met this person and we've been dating for 2 months and now we're boyfriend and girlfriend after 2 months. And we're going to move in together after 2 months. And we're going to move to Outer Mongolia. Let's think about this before you do it. Okay. And oftentimes people, when they have had families of origin that were extremely manipulative, okay, extremely dysfunctional, our tendency, if we do not work on our inner child, okay, the little one inside of us, is to go seek out someone who reminds us of the parents that we had the hardest time with, or caregiver, or whoever. So here's the original ones. There's the one that kind of sort of reminds us of them. And what we do is we replay it over and over again, thinking that somehow we can fix it by dating somebody that's like them. I know if I can make them love me, whether that's a romantic partner, a boss, a family member, if I can make them love me, that reminds me of my abusers at home, then I can fix these guys. Half of a doo-doo sandwich, half of a doo-doo sandwich. total doo-doo sandwich. You will never, listen to me now, believe me later, you will never fix your family of origin issues by continuing to date people that remind you of them. The only way to fix the family of origin issues, Inner Child Workbook by Catherine Taylor, Inner Child Workbook, Regaining Your Inner Child by Lucia Cappuccioni, Facing Codependence by Pia Mellody, Codependent No More, Beyond Codependent No More by Pia Mellody, The Disease to Please, Harriet Breaker, CPTSD From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. Do the work. Stop avoiding it. Remember, we talked about avoiding last week. Stop avoiding it. Do the work. Work the Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. Those books will all give you the tools, literally, that you need to avoid abusers and to work on that family of origin so that you no longer have to date people that remind you of them, or get involved in corporations that remind you of them, or get involved with friends that remind you of them. Does that make sense? So let me just look at, oh my goodness, I've been talking too long again. Let me just look at this article. So four core tactics of psychological manipulators. Narcissists and manipulators use many of the same techniques to gain control of their victims. This is on Psychology Today. It's called Four Core Tactics of Psychological Manipulators. It's by Jamie Cannon, LPC. Psychological manipulation usually begins with minor boundary violations that escalate. So this is what they do. They'll violate a minor one, but then it starts getting more and more and more and more. Recognizing common manipulation tactics. They take advantage of intimate relationships. Psychological manipulation thrives in intimacy. It's a close, familiar way of using others that requires vulnerability to work well. Vulnerability on the part of the target, not so much on their part. It's the perfect breeding ground for this form of manipulation. Many psychological manipulators are family members, close friends, or romantic partners. These relationships give them an opportunity to build trust and later use that trust as a stepping stone to abuse. In order to take advantage of someone, manipulators must have a solid understanding of that person's weaknesses, worries, and personal history. So another manipulation, very quickly, is pumping for information. And this can go for bosses. This can go for romantic partners. This can go for family members. They pump for information. Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more. When did this happen? When did that happen? Tell me about your past. Tell me about your romantic relationships. Tell me about blah, 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 blah. They're gathering information so that it can be used against you at a later date. Okay. Okay. The perfect method of reconnaissance is spending time observing, taking notes, and learning how to manipulate someone from the inside perspective in an intimate relationship. Projecting blame. Psychological manipulators rarely, if ever, take responsibility, no, they never do, for their actions to the victim. To do so would damage their credibility and cause doubt in the abusive relationship. Most manipulators will adopt a self-righteous attitude with their victims, often centered on how they have been wronged by that person in some way. They'll flip the script. That is another manipulation. So flipping the script is along the lines of gaslighting, but what it is when you call them out on something they have done, they will suddenly flip the script and somehow they did it because of you. You made me. I had to because you. Well, no, you did this. Well, do you remember 6 years ago when this happened and you did this? That's how they flip the script. Flipping the script is a manipulation. Watch out for it. Okay. Healthy relationships are based on give and take. When a hurt occurs, both sides examine how they may have contributed and take accountability. In abusive relationships, the victim is forced into a position of being the cause for all that is wrong. Blame is projected onto that person, and for every problem in the relationship, including the manipulative behaviors, it's their fault, not the abuser's. Violating boundaries. Psychological manipulators despise boundaries. Their ultimate goal is power and control, and firm boundaries interfere greatly with that goal. To that end, they become skilled at testing and violating others' boundaries, usually starting with small limits and working their way up as they become more accomplished. Gaslighting. Gaslighting, we talked about that. And first steps for victims. Psychological manipulation is harmful on many levels, notably the doubt and dependency it can create in its victims. These effects can last for years after the relationship is ended, and many experts view these experiences as a form of chronic trauma. No kidding. So recognizing the common tactics of manipulation is a warning sign. It's your red flag. You've got to know how they think, what they're doing, what to watch out for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, let's dive into the questions, shall we? Okay. I have a meeting with a manipulative, blame shifting manager tomorrow. Ugh. When she tries to blame for things that aren't my fault, how can I avoid getting gaslit? Well, you can't avoid getting gaslit. Here's the thing. They're going to gaslight. And what they want is for you to start explaining yourself. So remember, I don't know if you were around when I was talking about being on the ropes. So this is another manipulation that they do. So what they love to do is they love to get their target of abuse on the ropes. Okay. So, but I didn't do it. Okay. Manipulators love to blame targets of abuse for things that they had nothing to do with. Because for one, they're projecting, they're trying to find a scapegoat, is what they're doing. And for two, if they can get you on the ropes trying to explain yourself, they can just keep doing the whole, well, yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You know, it's a mind bleep. You know what I'm saying? So the best way you can support yourself and protect yourself is to not get emotionally engaged during the meeting. You're going to gray rock. You're going to gray rock and you're going to document. You're going to document like crazy. And you're going to find out who is responsible. Seriously, it's like, okay, this person was responsible for this. I know that they said this, but here's who was assigned to this, and you're not going to do it in the meeting. They're looking for an audience. That's why they do things in meetings. I despise meetings. When I worked at the homeless shelter, we had this person there that I swear to God and all that's holy loved to hear their own voice, and they would just go on, if they would let them, for hours. So meetings are a grand theater. It's kind of like court. When you have to go to court with an abuser, meetings are the same thing. So it's their opportunity to be judge, jury, and executioner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to gray rock. No response, no emotional response whatsoever. That's what they're looking for. If they're manipulative, they're narcissistic, they're blaming you, they're trying to scapegoat you, they want you upset. They want you on the ropes. Don't give it to them. You're going to document. Bring your computer with you and start documenting. Like what was said, who said what the situation was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you're not going to show any emotion whatsoever. Your tears are delicious to them. They're evil. Your anger is delicious to them. They're evil. Your upset is delicious to them. You can't change them. They're evil. So they're going to gaslight. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. You can't control them. You really can't. But what you can do is document the crap out of it and then go to HR. So, you know, if he or she is creating a hostile work environment, there you go. So you document. Documentation is going to be your friend. It really is. Emotionality is not. You've got to be absolutely no emotion whatsoever. Document the crap out of it. If you need to, go to HR, file a hostile work environment. So there that is. Okay, let's see here. Ugh. Okay. What does a narc do when you don't let yourself be manipulated? My narc mother would fly into a rage and accuse me of all sorts of things I never did and lie to others about me. Yeah, that's exactly what they will do. So when they do not get their way, they turn into a literal 2-year-old. You know, you need to do what I want you to do. How dare you? Blah, 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 blah. So they will rage. They will shame. They will punish. They will smear 110%. So so yeah, they will absolutely, and they'll do it have no effect. So again, when faced with a narcissistic parent that's doing that, you're not going to play their game. You just gray rock, You know what? I'm not going to sit here and listen to this. Goodbye. Turn around, walk out. You can't control what they're going to do. Okay, you can't. It would be so nice if we could put a muzzle on all of these jackwagons, but we can't. So they're going to do whatever they're going to do. And people who are willing to believe the worst of you do not deserve the best of you. Seriously, you're finding out who your friends are. People who are willing to believe the smear campaign, those are not your friends. Those are not your family. Those are not your people. Seriously. So just be aware that they're going to say and do whatever they're going to say and do. They're going to try to punish, they're going to try to whatever, because it's about power and control. So when we say no to them, it is the kindest thing we can do. It really is. So now they've got a boundary. They don't like boundaries. They're going to try to punish. And when they realize that doesn't work, oh, well, now they're going to have to find somebody else to punish or to be the scapegoat or to whatever, or they start decompensating. And either way, may they have the day they deserve. It's like you can't control them. They're going to do and say whatever they're going to do and say. You don't have to play the game, though. You just don't. You don't have to. So you can walk out. You're not a tree. You can move. It's like if they start being verbally abusive, all right, I'm not going to sit here and listen to this. Call me when you're sane, walk out. Call me when you're calm, walk out. So yeah, there that is. All right, let's see. Is isolating a child by parent or step parent from their peers and friends abuse? I think it is. I do. My dad did that. So yeah, if you're not allowing the kids to socialize, we're social creatures, guys. We're like dogs. We need to be around each other. We do. We need other people. We do. Healthy people. Let me just caveat. So yeah, my dad did all sorts of crazy stuff. So like for my sister, one of my sisters, he sent her off to boarding school in Indiana, when she was 14. She didn't know anybody in Indiana. For me, he drugged me out of my school to another school district where I didn't know anybody and the kids were abusive. So, and we lived way out in the country. So it's like I didn't have neighbor kids I could go play with or hang out with. If I had to go anywhere, I had to catch a ride from mom or dad, usually mom. And of course, dad would have a fit. I remember one time I was talking to my girlfriend Kelly on the phone, and dad came in and started screaming at me because I'd been on the phone for half an hour. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm talking to my friend Kelly. I don't know why he had a fit with that. It's not like they charged you by the minute. So yeah, it's abuse. I think it is. Absolutely. 110%. You betcha. All right, my loves. So that is it for today. So next week we are going to talk more about self-esteem. Why? Because that is seeming to be up for everybody. So remember, the best defense against manipulation is self-esteem, is all those books I talked about. Also, next week, we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome. Why do we grow up after having been around these abusers and we think that we're not as good as we are, or that somebody's going to come along and do that? Do you remember what was that movie? Not The Blob. Oh, John, what was the movie where they pointed at them and started screaming? It was the aliens, the pod people. Body Snatchers, that's it. So we think that somehow Donald Sutherland is going to come up to us and point and scream and point us out as, being an imposter. So we're going to talk more about imposter syndrome and how to battle that. That's a self-esteem issue. So we're going to work on that. All right, my loves, you guys go have a great week. I'm going to post videos throughout the week with the questions that come in. Take good care of yourselves. Drink plenty of water. Get exercise. It's beautiful right now. Supposedly it's going to rain at some point, but get the sunshine while you can, while it's not 100,000 million degrees. All right. You guys have a great week, and I will talk to you later. Bye.